Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing and picking my in-season tournament bracket, discussing the teams, who I think is going to win, stuff like that. We're also going to be discussing a couple other miscellaneous topics across the league when I'm done with this. This is my second time trying to record this because last time my microphone had max gain on, so I just sounded like I was yelling the entire time. This time I do not, hopefully. We're also trying something new. I got my little, I got my bracket up here. We're professional out here. We're professional. Anyway, the Sacramento Kings versus the New Orleans Pelicans. This game is going to be good, mostly because both teams are finally healthy. And by finally, I mostly am talking about the Pelicans, but I'm going to discuss the Kings first. The Kings have been rolling, and they've proven they can beat good teams. They beat the Timberwolves just over a week ago. They just beat the Nuggets last night, and Jokic had 36, 13, and 14 too, and they still won. Sabonis has looked more comfortable around the perimeter this year. He's been operating a little bit further out than he has in previous years, especially when he played in Indiana. Fox has been, again, amazing since he's been back from that ankle injury. And, he's shooting that three ball with some serious confidence, and he's knocking it down on a great clip. He's averaging 30 points, 5 rebounds, and just shy of 7 assists. The Kings are poised to, I think, make the playoffs this year, not just the play-in, which I was discussing possibly happening whenever I made my Western Conference standings predictions video. As for the Pelicans, they're finally healthy. Trey Murphy is back for the first time this season. He played 2 games ago. They had a back-to-back recently. Last night, they lost to the Bulls in the second half of that back-to-back, but CJ McCollum and Jose Alvarado and Trey Murphy were all not playing because they're, slowly coming back from injury. CJ McCollum, especially with that right or left collapsed lung, which is his second one. We hope that never happens again. I'm happy he's back. Injuries like that are just very scary, terrifying. As a basketball fan, I never want to hear that news. As far as the Pelicans go on whether I think they can win this game, I think it's totally doable. They literally beat them 2 weeks ago, so it's definitely doable. But I'm going to pick the Kings here. I think the Kings have the more complete team. I think the Pelicans are integrating some people back into their lineup. And, I just think the Kings are a well-oiled machine right now, and I think they're going to win this first game. So I'm taking the Kings over the Pelicans in the first round. Next game we're going to discuss is the Pacers versus the Celtics. To be honest, I don't think this is going to be a very close game. The Celtics beat the Pacers by 41 when they played a month ago. I can't imagine there's going to be much different story this time around. Porzingis is slated to play, even though he's missed the last few games. And, I like the Pacers. I talked last video about how I love the way they run their offense, but they play no defense. I discussed this for 9 minutes in the last video, but they don't play any defense. And because of that, the Celtics hung 155 points on them. It was 155 to 104 in a regulation basketball game. The Pacers, they have the roster to be better defensively. They just aren't. They're going to have to trade Buddy Hield for a defensive wing that can give them nice minutes. Anyway, but we're not discussing Pacers roster upgrades and stuff like that. We're discussing whether I think they can beat the Celtics, which they can't. This first round goes to the Boston Celtics. We'll discuss more about why I think the Celtics are so good in this tournament this year when we get to the second round matchup. Best game of the in-season tournament right here, Lakers versus Suns. At least I hope. A LeBron, KD matchup, those never happen. The last time they played was this year, but before that, it had been 4 years since they'd played a basketball game against each other. I think the Lakers take this one, mostly because Phoenix is not at full power right now. The Phoenix Suns have looked great. Eric Gordon has been hooping since Bradley Beal's been out. And this team is very scary when Beal eventually gets back. And Nurkic has looked good. At worst times, honestly, he's looked serviceable, which is exactly what the Suns need. They ask him to play rim defense and grab rebounds, and he's leading the Suns in both of those categories. I think he's got roughly 11 rebounds a game, 1.5 blocks. And KD has been having an all-NBA first-team caliber season. He's averaging 31, 6, and 6 on just shy of 50, 50, 90, which is just incredible. I honestly don't feel great about saying that I think the Lakers are going to win this game, but if LeBron treats this like the real playoffs, I struggle to pick against LeBron. He just has that kind of track record. That goes without saying. I think the Lakers are a big threat to win this entire thing if they get out of this first round. They are 4-0 in the group stage, and they play much better in in-season tournament games. They play harder. The Lakers do this funny thing in regular season games where they forget that it's like a basketball game going on and not a scrimmage. So they just don't play good basketball for an entire first half. And then in the second half, they come out and play like a whole new team. And that's a lot of teams in the NBA, but the Lakers probably, and the Mavericks. The Lakers and the Mavericks do this the worst out of everyone in the league. And because of that, I think if the Lakers can avoid a terrible start, they will win this game. I think they will avoid that terrible start. I don't trust the Lakers supporting cast as much as other teams in the NBA, but if Austin Reeves continues to put the pieces together finally, Cam Reddish continues to prove he's deserving of that starting spot, and D'Lo continues to be the third best player on the team, then I think the Lakers are going to beat the Suns. So I'm going to go ahead and move them on as my laptop decides to sound like it's exploding. The Bucks versus the Knicks. I think the Bucks take this one simply because the Knicks played the Bucks in a group stage game to begin the season. It was like their 5th game, and Jalen Brunson had like 45 and they still lost. The Knicks look great, and I'm not saying they're trash because they're losing to the Bucks, but the Bucks are treated like they're a 500 team when they're 14-6. Like, the national narrative is they can't play defense and they don't run that pick and roll between Giannis and Dame, but they're 14-6. They don't play defense. That's warranted. They're 21st in the league in defensive rating. They average 115 points scored against in 100 possessions. I just think the Bucks are overhated right now, and I know that that's me trying to defend my take that they'll be the 1 seed at the end of the regular season, which I still think they do, because when I made that pick, I was justifying it because I thought the Porzingis and Al Horford, like, I won't say duo, but their front court is just so injury prone, and Al Horford is older, that I thought that would really affect that team. But the Celtics have looked fine without Porzingis in the lineup these last few games. Not as good as they do with him, obviously, but they've looked, good enough to still win basketball games. But as far as this game goes, I don't know why I'm discussing the Celtics. I think the Bucks take this one simply because when they've played in the group stage, the Bucks had a meh game. Giannis had like 22, which I get is still good, but not Giannis level typical dominance, especially in this playoff type atmosphere they're trying to create. Okay, second round, Kings versus Lakers. This is going to be a good game, but I'm going to go with the Kings. Here's why. It's the same reason why I picked the Kings over the Pelicans. I think they're a well-oiled machine. I think they know how to win basketball games. Last year, there was a lot of hype towards the Kings because they were the healthiest team in the NBA, and that has been kind of their detracting factor this year. And that's why a lot of people had them lower in their Western Conference standings. I did too. I didn't think they were going to be, I think they were a 3 seed or a 4 seed last year. I think I had them at 6. And then I was discussing whether I think they were a 7 or 8 seed. But I think the Kings, especially with De'Aaron Fox back and healthy and most of their roster being healthy, again, a very important factor. And Malik Monk playing better than he did to start the season. I think the Kings take this game. The deciding factor of this game between the Kings and the Lakers will be Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis has like a 30-point, 12-rebound outing, I think the Lakers win this game. But because Anthony Davis is so timid sometimes to attack weaker defenders, and he settles for that pull-up jumper, he just hasn't been as good as the Lakers need him to be this season if they want a chance at the NBA Finals. So I think the Kings win here. This will probably end up being the best in-season tournament game. I think the Bucks will come out firing on all cylinders. I think the Celtics will have everyone healthy and play good basketball like they always do, this season at least. But I think the Celtics pull this one out, and my reasoning is the same reason why they beat the Bucks in the regular season, simply because they play better defense. And because they play better defense, if they struggle shooting the ball on the offensive end, it doesn't hurt as much. And I get this is like contradictory to what I said whenever I was making my Eastern Conference predictions and stuff like that. I said the Bucks are going to be the number 1 seed. And, again, still don't feel great about that pick. But in this 1v1 context, I can see why the Celtics win, and this will kind of play into how I feel about the playoffs eventually. But yeah, I got the Celtics winning here. My finals is the Sacramento Kings against the Boston Celtics, and my winner is the Boston Celtics. I think this just makes sense. The Celtics are the most complete team. They've got all their players right now, no injuries, essentially. I think when it gets to be playoff time, if the Celtics are still operating in the same way, they avoid injury, I think the Celtics should be the favorites for the finals, and I don't see why they shouldn't win the in-season tournament. Before we go, I'm going to discuss some other things across the league. Since I made my last video that Josh Giddey news came out, and I know it feels like, to me, it feels like it's already been 2 weeks since that information came out, but it was only a week ago. If Josh Giddey did it, I don't think he should be in an NBA jersey ever again. But the way the NBA handles these sort of things, I think is just weird. They still celebrate Karl Malone, even though he literally impregnated that 14-year-old. I don't know if YouTube's going to allow me to say that, so I might censor it. Yeah, he did that. That was a thing he did. And they still celebrate him. I think if Josh Giddey actually did it, I think he deserves to never play in the NBA ever again. Anyway, I'm done having takes on this whole situation. It's weird, it's gross, it's bad for the NBA. They need to distance themselves. If it's true, he needs to never play basketball in the NBA again. Anyway, now we're going to discuss Mark Cuban selling the fucking Mavericks. A majority stake in the Mavericks. Mark Cuban sold the Mavericks. I was shocked when I heard that news. I didn't even know that Cuban was looking to sell a part of the Mavericks. I didn't know he just left Shark Tank, which I didn't know until he sold the Mavericks. I had no idea because I'm not an active Shark Tank watcher. I thought that was really interesting. Maybe it's a run at politics. It's possible. But what does that mean for the Mavericks? That's what we're here for. He sold it to two families, both of which I think are in the casino industry, and they're appointing some guy from Sands Corp, which sounds like a dystopian name for a company. He's going to be our new governor, and Mark Cuban's going to be the alternate governor if the purchase goes through in December sometime if the owners see fit. I don't see why it won't go through, but I don't really like this. I know Cuban has made plenty of terrible decisions as the Mavs governor. At least he likes the team, like this feels like an economic opportunity. Many of y'all, you can comment down below your opinions on this sort of thing, but I don't know if y'all have been to downtown Dallas ever in your life, but I'm going to tell you right now, the American Airlines Center is like a very big focal point of the Dallas area. And they're basically saying either they're going to tear down the American Airlines Center and build a giant casino and resort and all this bullshit, and they'll build a new stadium and it'll be crazy. It'll look like MSG. That sounds all fine and dandy. But I just don't know where they're going to build it because there's a lot of apartment complexes, office buildings, etc. that are in that little area by the American Airlines Center. I don't think there's space for a giant casino and resort in the Dallas Metroplex, so they would have to build it somewhere else. Where is that somewhere else? Is it in Arlington? Are they going to move by the Cowboys and the Rangers? I think that would be weird. The Mavericks are essentially the last team, and the Stars, obviously the Stars. The Stars and the Mavericks, they play at the American Airlines Center. They're in Dallas. I don't think they're going to be able to fit all that stuff in the Dallas Strip, just that area. I don't think that's going to fit, so I don't know. Also, gambling's not legal in Texas. I don't know. Many of y'all might not be from Texas, but you can't gamble here. Everyone who lives in the Dallas Metroplex drives 2 hours to go gamble at WinStar Casino just over the border in Oklahoma. So essentially, Cuban is selling the Mavericks. Right? He's got a lot of political power in Dallas. He's selling the Mavericks, and the reason he's selling the Mavericks is so these new people coming in, these casino families will come in, they'll build their hotel, their casino, they'll build a new stadium, and that'll be good for the Mavericks. That's great for business, right? That makes sense. But again, what does that mean for the Mavericks? I don't know. I don't know who the fuck this new guy is. I don't feel incredibly great about him, especially since he's coming from a casino family. He's essentially, I think he's the CEO and he's being appointed governor or something like that. He works for Sands Corp, which again, dystopian name. I don't know why I'm trashing on them. Maybe they'll be great people. But I've seen some of the quotes that lady who just bought the Mavericks has said, and she said some fucking terrible things. So I'm not exactly optimistic. I don't know what Cuban is thinking. He must have a bigger plan that I don't see. They must be lobbying for gambling and casinos in at least the Dallas Metroplex soon, 2025 soon, because if they don't get that passed, what was the point of buying the Mavericks in the first place? I worry that if that's the case, are they going to move the Mavericks? I don't think so. Hopefully not. But I saw some people thinking maybe they'll move to Vegas. But isn't there an expansion team going into Vegas soon anyway? So if that's the case, why wouldn't this family just buy the Vegas team whenever they're available and they start auctioning off who's going to be an investor in this team, stuff like that? Why wouldn't they just take their money, their billions of dollars they made off people gambling, and just take it and put it into that team? Why do they care about the Mavericks so much? So whoever the new governor is, he needs to prove himself. He needs to show that he cares about the Mavericks. Are we going into the luxury tax? Are we not? Are we operating like the Detroit Pistons where it's just complete dysfunctionality, which, sorry to catch a stray, Pistons fans, it makes me nervous. I'll talk about it more another time when more news comes out. Anyway, y'all take care. Have a good one.
Kuzma bothered by Isaiah Livers, a very good defender. Jordan Poole to the baseline. Tried to scoop it up, and Asar Thompson came from